Yo, it's me Paradox, and today we're gonna be reacting to a video made by Ryuuku Sensei about the Wuwa on mobile. And as you can see by the title, it is dying. Mm, Yes, it is. Technically not, but it's right now it is because of the lags, raindrops, and everything. And here he will best explain it in this video. So yeah, let's go ahead on with the video.
So a few days ago, I put out a video going over the performance issues in Wuthering Waves on PC, namely the city stutter and the exit freeze issues. I didn't know how that video would do, but it did well. Really well. And with over 1,200 comments, there was a mix of understanding, indifference, and also those asking, well, what about mobile? And honestly, I get it. I know that a huge chunk of the player base is on mobile, and they also have just as many, if not more problems than PC. They still have the exit freeze and city stutter problems, but also others like your phone getting hot, frame rates dropping, and enemies blowing around on screen.
It's kind of interesting that it took them this long to figure out that on mobile, Wuthering Waves is not really good. So, I mean, during the update, during when they released the patch announcing the anniversary, I guess their anniversary, they were stating that they're gonna reduce the size of the game on mobile, which was a good thing, honestly, though, that it's less gigabytes bigger now, so people can actually download it and play it. But still, as you can tell, these are still the problems with the phone overheating, FPS drops, and blurred visuals with it.
While your battery drains faster than it can charge. And ever since 2.1, Kuro has been bringing out graphics enhancements like immersive grass, more reflections, water physics, leaf and balloon physics, and with each update, more and more mobile players unfortunately had to drop the game because it became unplayable for them. And you might just chalk it up to, well, it's a big game, mobile hardware is limited, so what can Kuro do about that? Well, it turns out quite a lot, because someone actually sat down with a Snapdragon 8 Elite, one of the most powerful chips on the market right now, and hooked it up to a performance tracing tool and captured exactly what's happening inside the game at a technical level. And what they found is,
There's no way it can
honestly,
be that bad.
kind of wild. The game isn't slow because your phone is weak. It's slow because the game is working against itself. So let's break this all down. With that being said, my name is Ryuuku Sensei, and this is Wuthering Waves performance issues on mobile. Before we begin, if you haven't watched it already, I highly recommend watching this video first before this one, as some problems overlap. Now, let's start with something important. On the latest flagship phones, like your iPhone 15 Pros, your Snapdragon 8 Elite devices, Wuthering Waves actually runs pretty well in the open world. Smooth 60 FPS, great visuals, no complaints. But the moment you enter combat, things tend to fall apart. Frame rates tank into the 40s, sometimes even.
The reason is because there's a bunch of visuals here with like attack effects, animations, shaders, and all those stuff. That's why it kind of like for the mobile, it's like too much to handle, honestly.
Even the 30s, especially in the nightmare nests. Your phone gets hot, your battery drains fast, and you're left wondering, is the game just too demanding? Here's the twist though. It's not that the game is too demanding, it's that the game is being wasteful. So first things first, I think I have to point out that the data we're looking at was captured using a tool called Sokatoa, which was developed by Samsung, designed to analyze both the GPU
Should be
and the
expected that
CPU
Samsung would
so this
make
is a legit
something like this.
tool, and with that being said, I'm going to have to explain how graphics are rendered in the first place, but stick with me here because it's going to be very important. Okay, so everything you see in a game is made of triangles. Millions of tiny triangles, all stitched together to form everything you see on your screen. Characters, the environments, effects, everything. Your GPU's job is to take those triangles and figure out what to actually draw on the screen. Now, not every triangle needs to be drawn. Like, if a triangle is behind you, or off screen, or hidden behind a wall, you don't need it. The GPU can detect this very early and just throws it away before doing any real work. This is called trivial rejection, and it's supposed to be cheap and fast. Say for example, there's an NPC behind a wall. The NPC is there, but it's not rendered onto the
like when the door opens, it's all rendered in
the screen because, well,
when it closes,
behind a wall.
it's not
here's
there
the thing.
anymore. But it still
Cheap
is,
work
but
doesn't mean
it's not rendered. So it starts the rendering process of the NPC being there. But when the door closes, it kind of removes it completely. So it's like not there, but it is still there. But it removed the rendering thing. So render it again if you walk through it again.
Free. Before the GPU rejects a triangle, the CPU had to prepare it, send it over,
Mm-hmm.
and then the GPU had to partially process it just to figure out
There was no need to give the CPU a blush mark. Like
it was
what?
useless. That's wasted effort at every single step. It's like someone passing over a note saying, "Don't read me." The effort to write the note,
If I ever got that notice is
step. It's like someone passing over a note saying, "Don't read me."
if I ever got this notice somebody and it was actually written down as don't read me. Why the fuck then would you send me this notice just to say don't read me? Like you give me a piece of paper that you wasted with a marker as well that you wrote on, which cost you time as well, just for me to watching it thing not read it. Like is that I don't get if it's a joke or what
The
exactly.
effort to write the note, the wasted paper, and then the effort taken to read the note just to find out you don't
Exactly.
have to read it in the first place. In Wuthering Waves open world though, about 50% of all the geometry sent to the GPU gets immediately thrown away.
I mean, yeah, you're moving further away, so it does not need to no longer. The CPU doesn't really want the stuff that you already went past. It can start removing them already, so it doesn't need to keep them up. It can just remove them, say like, okay, he's moving forward, so I don't need to keep the back stuff anyway, and then it will basically remove it.
That is half gone before a single pixel is drawn. For comparison, Rainbow Six Siege Mobile, a game that runs beautifully on mobile, has a rejection rate of near zero. The CPU does the filtering before anything gets sent to the GPU, so the GPU only handles what it actually needs.
Mm.
But it gets worse. In combat scenarios like
Oh yeah,
Nightmare Nests and boss fights, the rejection rate in Wuwa hits upwards of 99%. Yeah, you heard that right. Almost
it's
every
nearly
single triangle
100%,
being sent to the
1%
GPU
of
is
100%.
immediately thrown away. The GPU is doing all this work, fetching data and running early
Yeah,
calculations for geometry that never renders a single pixel. This is what's called
it's basically like there's a CPU cycling failure. It basically like collects the data. It collects so much data that the CPU can't look at everything, so it does like removes most of it and uses only some of them that aren't possibly even worth using.
CPU side culling failure. The game engine basically stops filtering geometry before sending it to
I got no filter, bro. No shit, you don't got no filter, bro. You take every information you have. You realize that this is too much, and you threw it all away in the and then filter it through the most worthless stuff, the worthless info.
the GPU. The GPU then has to sort through mountains of useless data. To
Uh,
use that note analogy from earlier, it's like handing an accountant a bag of random trash and asking them to find all the receipts. The next issue is textures. Every surface in the game has a texture, like the look of stone,
yeah,
skin, water, or armor. When the GPU needs to apply a texture, first it checks a small superfast memory cache called L1, then a slightly slower one called L2. Think of
mm-hmm,
L1 being all the stuff on your table and L2 being the stuff in your desk drawer. Only if
yeah.
it can't find the texture in either of these places does it have to go all the way to main memory, which is much, much slower, like I mentioned in my previous video. This would be like having things in a bookshelf at the other end of the room. Now, usually, most texture requests hit L1 or, at worst, L2 cache, but
Mm-hmm.
in Wuthering Waves, there is an L1 cache miss rate of 70 to 100%.
Well, then that's really not good, honestly, because if it's missing all that already on the L1, it's not good. Dear God, on L2 of 55%, it's like, man, that's like, that is like quite a lot still that it misses still.
Meaning at its worst, every single texture lookup fails to find what it needs in the fastest cache. And how about that L2 miss rate, like the one in the desk drawer? Around 45%. So nearly half the time, the GPU has to go all the way to main memory to find what it needs. Doing this creates something called texture stalls. The GPU literally stops and waits for texture data to arrive before it can continue. And waiting means heat, battery drain, and dropped frames.
Yeah, it basically does what he just told you. It heats up your phone, drains your battery power for it, and causes your FPS to drop significantly from it.
So why does this happen? It actually ties back to that first culling problem.
Yeah, no filter.
Because so much junk is being submitted without proper sorting, the GPU constantly jumps between totally unrelated textures, trashing the cache and refilling it with stuff it may not even need. This is the equivalent of constantly having your desk and drawer.
Just as you have a work project and you have notes all over the table, and you don't know which one it was, so you pick the randomest notes and present it just to wait for it as you pick it up, just for you to realize that you picked up like notes that are or documents that are completely worthless for this assignment.
Cluttered up. There's also one more surprising detail here. Anisotropic filtering appears to be completely disabled. What the hell is that?
I'm wondering as well what that is. But it says it here anyway.
When a textured surface like a road or a floor stretches away from you into the distance, the GPU has to squeeze the texture in one direction but not the other. Skipping over a bunch of technical stuff, without AF, the GPU takes a shortcut that results in blurred surfaces. Okay. The thing is though, on modern hardware, it's essentially free to enable. It's just one of those things that can be switched on for a visual improvement at no real performance cost. I was baffled by this, so I asked the person who took these measurements if this was an error in the recording software. They told me that anisotropic filtering is in Wuthering Waves, but it's set at X2, which is basically negligible.
2 times is basically negligible, so it's understandable when it doesn't get picked up. Okay, so it's basically not noticeable, so it won't get picked up.
So it's understandable it doesn't get picked up. So after all this, let's get back to the original question. Why does open world feel smooth while combat completely falls apart? Now that we understand the issues, it actually starts to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it kind of does.
In the open world, GPU frequency is low to mid, with utilization sitting somewhere around 50%, and you're locked at 60 frames per second. Things are wasteful, but the hardware is powerful enough to brute force through the inefficiency and still deliver a playable experience. In combat though, the GPU maxes out. Utilization hits 100% and frame rates drop into the 40s or even 30s. And here's the thing, it's not because the combat looks dramatically better either, it's because every single problem compounds at once. That rejection rate spikes to 99%. Cache misses.
Yeah, because when you're fighting a boss, it's all compressed into a single area, and there's so much effects and animations going so much that the phone just doesn't have the time to processing it, which causes the stutters and then the FPS drops basically.
Go up, and when VFX, particles, and other overlapping effects stack up, the GPU is forced to shade the same pixels over and over. This is another issue called overdraw, which is a whole other problem in and of itself. The GPU isn't working harder because it's doing more meaningful work. It's choking because it's drowning in inefficiency. But even in the open world where things are...
I'm sorry for pausing, but like the green screen makes it look like his mic is it's like a miniature Death Star. I'm not even lying. It literally looks like a miniature Death Star.
A little less intense, there's a subtle sign of trouble. The GPU essentially gets no rest between frames. Even on an 8
really
Elite,
bad.
there are barely any idle moments between rendering each frame. And if that's how it is for one of the fastest chips on the market right now, then on a mid-range phone, there would be zero breathing room at all. That is a recipe for thermal throttling, battery drain, and stuttering. And here's another technical issue that's worth understanding. Shader precision. Shaders are the little programs that run on the GPU to calculate lighting, colors, and all those other effects. The math used in those shaders can run at either full precision or half precision. Basically the difference of how far down the decimals they go. On Qualcomm's Adreno GPUs, which are the ones found in most flagship Android phones nowadays, half precision runs twice as fast and is the generally recommended approach for most visuals such as general color blending and lighting, stuff like that. This is even explicitly stated in the official Qualcomm documentation. The thing is, though,
Oh,
Wuthering
okay.
Waves is running its shaders at full precision 4 times more than half precision. Doing this
Why,
uses up
dude?
half of the GPU's available processing power for no visual benefit. Basically, Wuthering Waves is shading things too perfectly most of the time for things that don't even really matter. In the open
Mm.
world, this is fine. The GPU can keep up with that. But in combat, when you
So during combat, is this the optimizing is just too much for it, then it causes basically all of it to like stutter, to lag, the FPS drops to basically lose all the data from it.
have particle effects, skills, and overlapping transparency all stacking on the same pixels, that overdraw problem kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
Those already expensive full precision shaders aren't running once per pixel, they're running 4 or 5 times once for each of those layered effects. And if you use an alt where everything blacks out, all of that work gets rejected anyway. You're starting from an
Then
already inefficient baseline, multiplying it, then just throwing it away. Kind of like working out several perfect shades of paint to put on the wall, all of them different. Painting the wall several
mm-hmm.
times, then just covering it in black wallpaper. That
Yeah,
combination of
what was the point then? No, I agree what he's saying though, because if you're using so many of those colors, you just stick to one. Then what is the point of it? It's basically like this. You're using so much animation effects that it only does one. So what was the point of all the others then? Basically, if you were gonna throw them out.
wasteful shaders, dense combat effects, plus all the culling and cache problems is why your
Mm-hmm.
phone starts to heat up so quickly. All of this, and mobile still has those other two problems that PC players have, the exit freeze and the city
Yeah,
stutter.
so you
But
stutter.
here's the good news, and this is the important part. None of these mobile issues are unfixable. These aren't issue. They're optimization choices that Kuro Games could address in future patches. And here's what that could look like. Before the game sends
Yeah,
any
they're
geometry
just
to the
taking their
GPU,
sweet
the
time with
CPU
it.
should be filtering out anything that doesn't need to be drawn. Getting that 99% rejection rate down is a huge priority. Next is by grouping similar textures and materials together in draw calls. That way, the GPU can stay in the same part of the memory longer, which would dramatically improve cache hit rates and reduce stalls. For anisotropic filtering, seriously, this just might be a toggle. It would improve visual quality for essentially zero performance cost. If there's a reason why it isn't on already, I would love to know why. And for the textures themselves, they need to be preloaded based on where the camera is pointing and where the player is moving, not fetched reactively mid-frame. Also, and I didn't get into this earlier, the game currently caps its texture streaming pool at 400 megabytes, even on phones with 12 or 16 gigabytes of RAM. Raising that pool size could
Yeah,
also meaningfully reduce cache misses. As of right now, on a Snapdragon 8 Elite, Wuthering Waves struggles to hit 60 frames per second in the open world. But if all of these were addressed, that number would likely hit 120 frames per second with no trouble. And
yeah. I mean, they recently technically dealt with the storage problems, so I think in the future patches they're gonna like address the problems with mobile and those, and then fix it immediately. Because if they actually do that, then a lot of the good phones can actually run it on good frames again.
maybe even 60 FPS during combat would also be very achievable. And for the lower end devices and mid-range phones that are currently experiencing stutters and unplayable frame rates, these improvements could be the difference between the game being borderline broken and actually enjoyable. Now, look, I want to be clear about this. This isn't a Kuro bad video. Wuthering Waves is genuinely beautiful. The combat feels incredible, and Kuro has shown that they care about their player base. I don't think this game will ever be able to be played on potato phones, even
You can dream on with that. I don't think potato phones can never run this type of game ever though.
though that would be cool. But this is just me saying, hey, there's a real opportunity to fix things here and to keep a lot more people playing. And the more people playing means
No,
more
I agree. They just need to get their attention about it and like get their attention. Like maybe they already know about it and they're already preparing the fixes for the next patch news and stuff. Because if they did, then that honestly would be a lot beneficial for mobile players. They can play it on their mobile if they're somewhere far away or like on a vacation that they want to play, you know?
more money for Kuro. For PC, the problems seem to be mostly due to Unreal Engine and the CPU
Yeah, Unreal Engine. I still cannot get why like Unreal Engine is somehow still up like this when it's kind of causing this. Mainly CPU, yeah. If you don't have a good CPU, it kind of stutters with that. And then on Unreal Engine just like Unreal Engine is just breaking itself when needing to deal with Wuwa.
bottleneck that Kuro can't do anything about. But on
Yeah.
mobile, the problems lie with the GPU. Namely, the gap between how the GPU is currently being used and what it's capable of. And the players who
Mhm.
stand to benefit the most aren't those on flagship phones, it's the people on mid-range devices who are struggling to play at all. And I'm saying this as someone who doesn't even play on mobile. I just want this game and the fanbase to grow, and it's a real shame whenever I see a comment from someone that says that they had to drop it, even when they didn't want to. The more visibility that these issues get, the more likely it is that Kuro will prioritize them in future updates. So what do you think? I imagine that if they can solve these issues, then even performance on PlayStation could make a comeback. But I'm curious, which one of these issues would you want Kuro to focus on first?
I think mainly what I want to focus on is indeedly mobile first because there are like people really like are like could be like on vacation or another country, but they still want to play Wuthering Waves. So they get their phone, use their phone, and play it. If they can optimize and make it better, fix the problems, and people actually play more Wuthering Waves on their mobile on phones as well if they're away from the computer, which could be a very good thing. And for PlayStation, like if you don't like to play on keyboard and mouse and you wanna play on a PlayStation 5 and like use it, then that could be the second thing they could fix, honestly. But that's my opinion on it, on what should they should prioritize first.
Let me know down in the comment section below. And again, if there's anything wrong in this video, I sincerely apologize. If you're knowledgeable in any way about this, then please tell me what I got wrong. And
I would say that I'm not that good with those stuff at all. I'm somewhat good with computers, but I'm not that highly e- ex- expert at these computers.
again, let's be respectful about any disagreements. Also, if you want more deep dives like this, then don't forget to like and subscribe because it greatly supports the channel. So until next time,
Okay,
I will see you in the next video.
the next one.
Peace.
Hey, so yeah, I would say this was a pretty good explanation video about the problems, though. I'm not sure if it was terrible. I just think that this was a very good explanation about the situation with mobile and the game itself, and then hoping that they do fix it, which I do hope as well. But yeah, it was a very good explanation video. I hope you all enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.